At 2:17 a.m., the phone rang exactly once. Not twice. Not long enough to reach voicemail. Just enough to register. Caleb Morris stared at the screen in the dark of his apartment, heart already racing before his mind caught up. No number. No blocked ID. Just a blank field where information should have been. He didn't answer. The phone stopped ringing. 5 seconds later, his ankle monitor vibrated. Caleb sat up abruptly, throwing the blanket aside. The device hadn't alerted in months. His probation conditions were strict but predictable. Curfew, location compliance, weekly digital check-ins. The monitor only vibrated if he crossed a boundary. He was sitting on his bed. He hadn't moved. The vibration stopped. Caleb waited for the follow-up call from probation. It never came. By morning, his probation app refused to load. Instead of his dashboard, a single message appeared. Status pending review. Do not attempt contact. Caleb exhaled slowly. Pending review meant something had gone wrong administratively. Missed data sync, server outage, human error. It happened. Usually it resolved itself within hours. Except this time it didn't. At 9:03 a.m., Caleb received an automated email.
No greeting. No signature.
Your supervision status has been temporarily reassigned. You are required to remain available. Available meant reachable. Caleb called his probation officer. Straight to voicemail. He drove to the probation office downtown. The building was open, lights on, staff moving behind glass. When he approached the front desk, the receptionist scanned his ID, frowned slightly, then scanned it again. "One moment," she said. She disappeared into the back. Caleb waited. 5 minutes. 10. People behind him grew restless. A guard shifted his weight, watching Caleb now. The receptionist returned, her expression carefully neutral. "You're not scheduled today," she said. "I'm not here for a meeting," Caleb replied. "My status changed overnight." She tapped the keyboard. "I don't see an active case." Caleb felt a cold wave pass through him. "That's not possible. I'm on supervised release." The receptionist hesitated, then lowered her voice. "I see a record," she said, "but it's marked transitioned." "Transitioned where?" She shook her head slightly. "That field isn't accessible." The guard stepped closer. "Sir," he said, "you need to step aside." Caleb left without arguing. By noon, his employer called. They said his background verification had updated. They said they had to let him go. They wouldn't explain further. By evening, his bank app showed an error he'd never seen before. Account status unavailable. Caleb wasn't being arrested. He wasn't being accused. He was being unlinked. That night, the phone rang again. This time, he answered. A man's voice spoke calmly, professionally. "Mr. Morris," the voice said, "you've been reassigned to an alternate supervision pathway." "I didn't violate anything," Caleb said. "We know," the voice replied. "Then what is this?" "A correction," the man said. "Your original probation outcome was statistically unstable." Caleb laughed nervously. "That's not a legal term." "No," the man agreed. "It's an operational one." The man instructed Caleb to be at a specified address by morning. Not a courthouse, not a jail, a municipal services building on the edge of the city, the kind no one notices. "If I don't go?" Caleb asked. There was a pause. "Then your status resolves without you," the voice said. The line went dead. Caleb didn't sleep. At dawn, he stood across the street from the building, watching people enter and leave. City workers, contractors, delivery drivers. Nothing marked it as part of the justice system. Inside, there were no holding cells, no bars, just desks. A woman in a navy blazer greeted him by name. "You're early," she said. "I want a lawyer," Caleb replied. She smiled politely. "You're not in custody." She led him into a room with a large screen on the wall. On it was Caleb's life, not events, but probabilities. Risk of recidivism, employment sustainability, social dependency load. I did everything you asked, Caleb said. Yes, the woman replied. And that's why you're here. She pointed to a red marker on the screen. Your compliance curve peaked, she said. After that, it declined. So what? Caleb asked. People change. Systems don't like unpredictability, she replied. Caleb understood then with a clarity that made him nauseous. Probation wasn't about behavior. It was about future cost. And the system had decided his future was inefficient. She slid a tablet toward him. Alternate supervision agreement. No end date. No appeal clause. Caleb looked up. What happens if I don't sign? The woman folded her hands. Then we proceed without consent. That was when Caleb realized something worse than prison existed. A process where nothing illegal happened, and nothing could be challenged. And once you entered it, you didn't disappear. You were managed. Caleb didn't sign the tablet. Not at first. He sat there, hands flat on the table, staring at the glassy surface as if it might blink back at him. The woman in the navy blazer didn't rush him. She didn't threaten him. She simply waited the way someone waits when the outcome is already decided and time is just a courtesy. I want this documented, Caleb said finally. I want it on record that I refused. It will be, she replied. Refusal is a data point. That sentence lodged itself in his chest. Not a choice, not a right, a data point. She tapped the tablet once, and the screen changed. A new line appeared beneath his name. Consent. Deferred. Congratulations, she said lightly. You've just entered observational compliance. What does that mean? Caleb asked. It means, she said, standing, that for now you'll go home. Relief hit him so suddenly it almost felt like vertigo. But, she continued, already walking toward the door, your profile will continue to resolve. Resolve. The same word the voice on the phone had used. On the way out, Caleb noticed something he hadn't before. The people in the waiting area weren't talking. Not quietly at all. They sat perfectly still, eyes down, hands folded, like passengers waiting for a delayed flight that had no departure board. A man in his 50s caught Caleb's eye for a split second, and the look there wasn't fear. It was recognition, like someone seeing a version of himself from years ago. Caleb drove home with the radio off, every sound in the car amplified by his thoughts. At a red light, his ankle monitor vibrated again. Not an alert, not a warning, just a soft, steady hum that lasted 3 seconds and stopped. That night, he tried to log into everything. His email still worked, but half his old messages were gone, as if they'd never existed. His cloud storage showed empty folders where years of documents used to be. Even his social media profiles looked wrong. Posts missing, comments orphaned, friend lists shortened. He wasn't being erased all at once. He was being thinned. 2 days later, a woman knocked on his door. Mid-30s, clipboard, municipal badge that said Civic Optimization Services. Mr. Morris, she said, smiling. I'm here for your housing continuity check. I didn't request one, Caleb said. She glanced at her clipboard. You didn't need to. She walked through his apartment, taking photos of the walls, the windows, the electrical outlets. She didn't open drawers or cabinets. She wasn't looking for contraband. She was documenting conditions, square footage, proximity to public transport. You live alone? She asked. Yes. No dependents.
No.
She made a small mark on the page. Do you feel supported here? She asked. Caleb stared at her. Supported how? She met his gaze evenly. Socially. Structurally. I feel fine, he said. She smiled again, the same polite, empty smile. That's a common answer. When she left, Caleb noticed a small sticker near his doorframe that hadn't been there before. A simple black square with a white number inside. 17. He peeled it off. The adhesive resisted, like it wasn't meant to be removed. That evening, he finally got a call back from his probation officer. Or rather, someone using his probation officer's number. Caleb, the voice said, I'm going to speak carefully. Where have you been? Caleb demanded. I'm not assigned to you anymore, the man said. And if I were you, I'd stop trying to contact people connected to your old case. Why? Another pause. Because you're not in the system we trained for, the man said quietly. You're in one we don't get briefed on. The line went dead. The next week unfolded like a slow-motion collapse. His health insurance stopped recognizing his policy number. His driver's license scanned as valid, but triggered secondary checks everywhere. He wasn't denied services outright. He was delayed, redirected, placed on hold, always pending. Caleb started keeping a notebook. Dates, times, names, every interaction. He needed proof that this was happening, that he wasn't imagining the pattern. One entry stood out. A library. He'd gone there to use a public computer, thinking it would be neutral ground. When he logged in, the screen froze for a second, then refreshed. A message appeared in the corner. Session monitored for quality assurance. He stood up to leave. A man was suddenly sitting across from him, close enough that Caleb hadn't noticed him approach. Early 40s, casual clothes.
No vai.
They always start with the peripherals, the man said softly. Caleb didn't answer. Banking, housing, healthcare. They make you smaller before they make you compliant. Who are you? Caleb asked. The man smiled faintly. Someone who signed. Caleb's stomach dropped. You signed that agreement? He whispered. I did, the man said. 3 years ago. What happens? The man leaned back. You stop fighting invisible walls. You accept assignments. You relocate when asked. You become cheap. Cheap, Caleb repeated. Low cost, the man corrected. Predictable.
Non disruptive.
Caleb shook his head. That's not legal. The man laughed quietly. Neither is hunger, technically, but it still works. Before Caleb could ask more, the man stood up and walked away, disappearing between the shelves. When Caleb tried to follow, a librarian blocked his path, asking for his card with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. That night, Caleb received another email. Status update. Observational phase complete. Next step, directive alignment. Attached was a list of tasks. Not punishments. Tasks. Attend a job placement seminar in a neighboring county. Relinquish current lease within 30 days. Consent to health evaluation for optimization. Each task was framed as optional. Each had a timestamp. Caleb ignored them. 3 days later, his power was shut off. Not for non-payment, for grid reallocation. His landlord called, apologetic, said the building was being rezoned. Caleb's unit was no longer classified as residential. At that point, anger finally broke through the fear. Caleb contacted a journalist, an independent one, a woman named Renee who specialized in algorithmic governance and quiet policy failures. She listened. She asked smart questions. She believed him. 2 days later, she stopped responding. Her website went offline. Her social media vanished. Caleb went to her apartment. A neighbor said she'd moved suddenly. No forwarding address. That was when Caleb understood the scale of it. This wasn't about him. He was a rounding error in a system designed to manage risk without accountability. A system that didn't need prisons because it could make a person functionally disappear while technically remaining free. The ankle monitor vibrated again. Longer this time. Caleb looked down at it, then back up at the city around him. Cars moving, people laughing, life continuing as if nothing was wrong. He was still here, but everything that made him count was being quietly withdrawn. And somewhere, in a building no one noticed, a dashboard was updating. Green bars, cost curves, resolution pending. Caleb had one realization left, sharp and terrifying in its clarity. If he didn't do something loud, something undeniable, the system wouldn't kill him. It would let him live. And that would be worse. Caleb stopped sleeping after that realization. Not in the dramatic sense, no screaming nightmares, no cold sweats. He simply lay awake, eyes open, listening to the city hum, cataloging every sound like evidence. Sleep felt irresponsible now, like closing your eyes while crossing a highway. Every time he drifted, the thoughts snapped him back awake. They move faster when you're idle. He started walking instead, miles at a time. No destination, no pattern. He avoided his phone, left it at home more often than not, knowing every step with it in his pocket fed something he couldn't see. On his third night walking, he noticed the same car pass him twice on different streets. On the fourth night, he noticed it didn't bother hiding anymore. That was when he did something reckless. He let it follow him. Caleb led the car through industrial zones, underpasses, streets where the streetlights flickered or didn't work at all. The car kept its distance, patient. When he finally ducked into a derelict strip mall and cut between two buildings, the car didn't accelerate. It slowed, because it already knew where he was going. The realization hit him as he emerged into the parking lot on the other side and saw another vehicle idling there, engine running. This wasn't surveillance. It was choreography. Caleb didn't run. He walked straight toward the second car. The driver's window rolled down before he reached it. A woman sat inside, late 40s.
No uniforme. No visible weapon.
She looked like someone you'd see waiting to pick up a kid from soccer practice. "Mr. Morris," she said calmly, "you're degrading your profile." "Good," Caleb shot back. She studied him for a moment. "That's a misunderstanding. Degradation doesn't mean danger. It means inefficiency." "You're following me," Caleb said. "That sounds inefficient." "We're validating assumptions," she replied. "You're behaving exactly as projected." Caleb laughed. A short, sharp sound. "Then your projections suck." The woman didn't smile. "You want to feel exceptional," she said. "But the system doesn't require your consent to function. Only your predictability." She gestured subtly toward the darkened storefronts. "You could keep doing this. Walking, avoiding tasks, creating friction. It won't hurt us." "What happens then?" Caleb asked. Her eyes softened, just a fraction. "You'll qualify for assisted resolution." "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, "someone else starts making decisions for you. Officially." The word officially hung between them like a threat wrapped in bureaucracy. Caleb took a step back. "I want this documented," he said again. The phrase felt like a talisman now. "It is," she replied. "Everything is." The window rolled up. The car drove away. So did the other one. Caleb stood alone in the parking lot, heart hammering, adrenaline burning hot and useless in his veins. For the first time since this began, he felt something close to despair. Not because he was losing, but because he finally understood the rules. You couldn't outrun it. You couldn't expose it. You couldn't even fight it directly. The system didn't punish resistance. It absorbed it. The next directive arrived the following morning, printed this time, slid under his door.
No letteread.
No logo. Just a single sentence. "You have been selected for participatory review." Below it, an address. Caleb didn't want to go. Every instinct screamed not to. But he also knew refusing wouldn't stop what was coming. It would just change the label attached to him. He went. The building sat on the edge of the city, nondescript to the point of invisibility. No sign. No security gate. Inside, the lobby was bright, almost aggressively clean. A receptionist checked his name off a list without looking at him. "You're early," she said. "How many people are here?" Caleb asked. She paused, then answered honestly. For you? Or total? He followed her down a hallway lined with frosted glass rooms. Inside each, he caught glimpses of people sitting alone at tables, facing tablets, faces lit with a familiar blank focus. In the room he was led to, a man waited. Early 60s, gray hair, calm eyes. "Caleb," the man said warmly. "Thank you for coming." "I didn't have a choice," Caleb replied. The man nodded. "That belief is important. Keeps the process ethical." Caleb almost laughed. "What is this place?" he demanded. "A feedback node," the man said. "You're here because you generate high-quality resistance." Caleb stared at him. "You're saying that like it's a compliment." "It is," the man replied. "Most people comply passively. You don't. That makes you valuable." "Valuable to who?" "To stability." The man slid a tablet across the table. On it was a dashboard. Charts. Metrics. Heat maps. Caleb saw himself there. Not his face, but his behaviors. His movements. His delays. His refusals. All translated into clean lines and percentages. "This is what you are," the man said. "Not a person. A pattern." Caleb's hands shook. "You can't do this." "We can," the man said gently. "And we do. Because it works." He leaned forward. "Here's the part you haven't figured out yet. The system doesn't need everyone to agree. It needs a small number of visible dissenters." Caleb frowned. "Why?" "Because dissent defines the boundary," the man said. "You show everyone else where not to go." The room felt smaller. "We let people see what happens to you," the man continued. "Not dramatically. Quietly. You lose access. You stall. You fade. Others notice, even if they can't articulate it." Caleb's mouth went dry. "You're using me as an example." "Yes," the man said. "And we're offering you a role in shaping that example." He tapped the tablet. A new option appeared. Collaborative resolution pathway. "You cooperate," the man said, "and you get to influence how this system evolves. You help us identify flaws, improve outcomes." "And if I don't?" Caleb asked. The man's expression didn't change. "Then you become a cautionary tale." Caleb pushed the tablet away. "People deserve to know." "They do know," the man said softly. "They just don't know you know." The meeting ended without raised voices, without threats, without handcuffs. When Caleb left the building, the city looked the same as it always had. But he felt different. He felt like he was standing on the wrong side of a one-way mirror. That night, Caleb made his decision. He logged into the system. He accepted the collaborative pathway. And for the first time since this began, the system responded immediately. Access restored. Utilities reinstated. Status updated. He felt the relief hit him like a drug. And that was when he understood the final twist of the knife. Compliance didn't feel like defeat. Felt like peace. And that's how they got you. Caleb expected resistance from the inside. He expected locked doors, red tape, people who spoke in rehearsed half-answers and ended meetings early. What he didn't expect was how easy it became once he agreed to cooperate. Doors opened. Calendars cleared. People returned his calls within minutes. The system, it turned out, loved nothing more than a former problem who had decided to be helpful. They didn't give him a title. Titles implied accountability. Instead, he was listed as an external contributor. A phrase vague enough to mean anything and nothing at the same time. He was invited into meetings that technically didn't exist, video calls that never appeared on official schedules. The people on those calls didn't introduce themselves with names, only functions. Risk modeling, behavioral optimization, resource allocation. No one ever said control. They said efficiency. At first, Caleb played along cautiously. He asked questions that sounded constructive but weren't. He pointed out blind spots. He suggested ethical safeguards, transparency measures, appeals processes. Each suggestion was met with nods, notes, assurances that the idea would be taken under advisement. Then the dashboards updated. Every time Caleb flagged a concern, a metric somewhere improved. Processing time dropped. Voluntary compliance increased. Attrition stabilized. His resistance, reframed as insight, made the machine smoother. He began to see it clearly. The system didn't fear criticism. It harvested it. The more thoughtful he was, the better it performed. Weeks passed, then months. Caleb's life normalized on the surface. He moved into a new apartment. Smaller, cheaper, optimally located. He was given a modest stipend for his contributions. Enough to live, not enough to save. The ankle monitor was replaced with a phone app for convenience. The app tracked less, allegedly, but it never glitched. Sometimes, late at night, Caleb scrolled through old photos he'd backed up offline. Versions of himself that felt like someone else now. He wondered how many of those versions had been quietly optimized out of existence. One afternoon, during a closed session review, he noticed a familiar name on a slide. Renee. Not her full name, just an identifier. But the metadata matched. Same age range. Same geographic cluster. Same professional background. Caleb's heart pounded. What does resolution achieved mean in this context? He asked carefully. The presenter didn't hesitate. Successful reintegration. Into what? Caleb pressed. The presenter smiled politely. Into non-disruptive patterns. Caleb muted his mic. His hands trembled. After the meeting, he searched deeper. Used access he technically wasn't supposed to have, but now did. Renee's profile wasn't marked as deceased. It was worse. She was marked as complete. No public presence. No professional footprint. No recorded output. A person reduced to baseline functionality. Alive. Federal housed. Silent. That night, Caleb didn't sleep at all. The next morning, he did something he hadn't done in months. He broke protocol. He downloaded files. Not summaries. Not dashboards. Raw internal documentation. Process flows. Decision trees. Language maps that translated human behavior into variables. He knew he wouldn't get everything. He didn't need to. He needed enough. By the time the system flagged the anomaly, it was already too late. Caleb sent the files to dozens of outlets. Journalists, activist groups, foreign watchdogs, anyone who might publish before the takedown came. Then he waited. The response was immediate and underwhelming. A few articles appeared, carefully worded, heavy on speculation, light on accusation. The system issued a public statement calling the materials misinterpreted internal drafts and emphasizing its commitment to public welfare. Within days, the story drifted.
No protests. No hearings.
No outrage cycle. Caleb watched the coverage fade with a hollow ache in his chest. He had risked everything for this, and it barely registered. That was when the woman in the navy blazer returned. She sat across from him again, just like the first time. Same calm demeanor, same tablet. You crossed a line, she said. I told the truth, Caleb replied. You shared data, she corrected. Truth requires context. What are you going to do? He asked. She tilted her head slightly. What do you think would be appropriate? Caleb laughed bitterly. You're going to erase me. She shook her head. That's inefficient. She turned the tablet toward him. On the screen was a proposal. Public reconciliation pathway. You'll give an interview, she said. A long one. Thoughtful. Nuanced. You'll explain that you misunderstood the system at first. That you acted out of fear. That once inside, you realized the intent was benevolent. No, Caleb said instantly. She waited. No, he repeated. She nodded and made a note. That was expected. She stood. Then we'll proceed with silent integration. The phrase hit harder than any threat. Caleb felt something inside him fracture. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just a slow, grinding realization. They weren't afraid of martyrs. They were afraid of noise, and they knew exactly how to eliminate it. Over the following weeks, Caleb noticed subtle changes. Invitations stopped coming. His access downgraded. His stipend reduced, pending review. Friends he'd reconnected with stopped answering messages, not blocked, just delayed into nothing. He wasn't arrested. He wasn't fired. He wasn't erased. He was returned to the margins, carrying knowledge no one wanted to hear and no platform willing to amplify it. One evening, as he walked through his neighborhood, he noticed a new black square sticker near the entrance of his building. A white number inside. Teen. His number had increment. Caleb stood there for a long time, staring at it. He understood now. The system didn't collapse when exposed. It adapted. It learned. It refined. And somewhere, someone newer, someone angrier, louder, more reckless, was just beginning to notice the delays, the holds, the quiet barriers closing around their life. Caleb had become part of the infrastructure, a warning embedded so deeply no one could see it anymore. And as he finally turned away from the door and walked back into the city, blending seamlessly into the crowd, one final thought settled over him, heavy and undeniable. The most terrifying system isn't the one that crushes you. It's the one that lets you live, just quietly enough that no one notices you're gone.